Today on Missing Number, the Scooby Doo game that unexpectedly terrified kids, Iran's Anti-Angry Birds, and the super rare McDonald's DS game. Missing Number starts now. The Scooby Doo franchise has never been truly scary. It's a comedy horror made for kids, but there's one Scooby Doo game that truly terrified children back in the early 2000s. To help promote the 2004 film, Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, a point-and-click puzzle flash game was made available on the film's website. In the game, Scooby-Doo is trapped in a museum, and you have to solve puzzles to help Scooby escape. The game's levels are made up of 3 exhibit halls, with one of them having an Egyptian theme, and it's here where a dark secret lies. In the center of the room is a sarcophagus that you can open by grabbing a crowbar in the next room. Should you open the sarcophagus, this is what lies inside. Up until this point, there was no indication that the game was scary. It just seemed like a standard, unremarkable game that was marketed to kids. The contributing factor that makes the infamous jump scare devilish is that the text is kind of hard to read, which causes you to lean closer to the screen. Back then around 2004, most people would have played the game on weaker computers and smaller screens with lower resolutions. This would have made the text smaller, blurrier, and even more illegible. What's more, opening the sarcophagus doesn't actually help you advance through the game. It's just there to scare you. On a side note, there's a hidden button that allows you to instantly skip the game's levels. If you resize the Flash player to be larger than intended, you can find the button out of bounds in the top right corner of the screen. One of the most notorious and strangest ghost sightings in a Pokemon game is the Ghost Girl in Pokemon X and Y, and now we can add another Ghost Girl to the list. In January 2022, a Reddit user named Steve7 was roaming the world of Pokémon Legends Arceus when suddenly they saw this in the distance. It looks like Akari, one of the game's main characters who's a female Pokemon trainer. From a distance, it appears as if Akari's attire is bugging out, but when the player tries to get a closer look, Akari just vanishes into thin air. This is most likely a glitch, a pretty creepy one at that. This looks like a normal loading screen in Overwatch 2. It's an image of one of the game's idyllic maps called Ilios. However, if you look more closely, you'll notice something that makes Ilios a bit unsettling. Creepy monochromatic figures locked in T-poses and A-poses. I was able to spot 8 figures, but online users claim to have found as many as 9 to 11. As of October 19th, 2022, the models can still be seen on the loading screen. This was most likely unintentional, and some players theorize that the models are either camera rig locations or scale reference points. But according to a Reddit user named J3D1, who claims to be a developer, the models are actually used to show where combat is most likely to occur. Blizzard simply forgot to turn off the models when taking this screenshot. J3D1 also goes on to say that the camera can be attached to the models so that screenshots can be taken from the player's eye level. With Iran having been in the news lately, the world is reminded of the country's anti-Western sentiment, and as it turns out, the country is also anti-Angry Birds as well. In September 2022, a Reddit user named Anti-Angry Birds Lost said that they found a copy of an Angry Birds game that was made by Iran. The Angry Birds clone is titled Anti-Angry Birds, and apparently you play as Iranian birds that have to destroy the Angry Birds characters, who are criminals causing worldwide mayhem and destruction. In the game's cheap animated intro, the Angry Birds can be seen in a news broadcast destroying famous landmarks around the world, like New York City's Statue of Liberty, Moscow's Red Square, and the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Bizarrely, all of this is accompanied by a distorted voice speaking in gibberish. I contacted the Reddit user for gameplay footage of anti-Angry Birds, but I did not receive one as of this time. Iran has a history with Angry Birds. In 2012, the Iran Computer and Video Games Foundation complained about Angry Birds Space for including a level that resembled the country of Iran. Another level also allowed you to destroy a structure that kind of looked like the Malad Tower, which is the tallest tower in Iran. The Foundation even accused the game, which was made in Finland by Rovio, of being part of US cyber warfare against Iran. It's a ridiculous accusation, but in 2012, it was reported that a sophisticated and powerful cyber weapon known as Flame was written by the same Eliway computer language that was used to create Angry Birds. But of course, many other games use Eliway, so the notion that Angry Birds specifically was used to attack Iran is questionable. McDonald's not only serves burgers and fries, but it also served up one of the rarest Nintendo DS games of all time. Nintendo and McDonald's actually have a long history together. Back in the day, there were McDonald's NES games, cross-promo TV ads, and even Nintendo console stations in McDonald's locations. Over the years, McDonald's menu items were getting more complex to make, so McDonald's needed a faster way to train their employees. Since the Nintendo DS was popular in Japan, McDonald's came up with the idea of making a training game for the DS, which they believed would make learning fun. In 2010, McDonald's Japan and Nintendo partnered together to make a DS game designed to train new part-time McDonald's workers. The game was called eCrew Development Program, or ECDP for short, and it reportedly cost $2.2 million to make. The games were shipped with McDonald's branded black DSs, and 2 units were sent to each of the 3,700 McDonald's Japanese restaurants. The console and game were never meant to fall into public hands, but in 2020, people were able to nab the game through online auctions, and subsequently, the ROM of the game was dumped online. There's a whole story surrounding ECDP, and how difficult it was to obtain the rare password-protected game.
Yes! Yes!
Yes!
We're in.
We're in uncharted territory, man.
Dude.
Bundled together, both the branded DS and ECDP cartridge have sold for as much as $3,200. Later, it was discovered that another version of ECDP existed. It was known as eSMART 1.0, but this was just a rebranded version of the original ECDP. However, it turns out that there was actually a third version of ECDP as well, and this one was even rarer. It was called eSMART 2.0, and unlike ECDP, the purpose of the game was to train pre-existing employees. The game included minigames, training videos, and multiple choice questions that taught employees how to cook menu items like Quarter Pounders, Egg McMuffins, hash browns, and French fries. It also taught players how to work the counter and drive-thru. Interestingly, the game's music is actually the famous McDonald's jingle. Unlike ECDP, eSMART 2.0 was much more difficult to acquire. Once in a blue moon, it would be listed on auction sites, only to be sold within minutes. Those who did obtain the super rare cartridge wouldn't share it online due to legal concerns and devaluation of the cartridge. Eventually, in January 2022, gaming preservationists called Forest of Illusion, along with other contributors, were able to secure a copy of eSMART 2.0 thanks to a fundraiser. The game was found on an online auction site, and ultimately, the group forked over $2,600 just for the cartridge alone. Forest of Illusion then backed up the game's data and released the ROM of the game online. Afterwards, they shipped the cartridge to a YouTuber named Cody Trentuit, who uploaded a video detailing his tumultuous experience trying to obtain the elusive game.